Thank you for tuning in to RB Productions. Today is No Mexicans or Dogs Allowed, the lengthy presence of anti-Latino discrimination. Even with various activists, laws, and revolutions, the battles against racism and discrimination have been continually endured by minorities in the United States of America. Right from the start, the United States has had rough experiences with the Latino population. The Mexican-American War only lasted for 2 years when Mexico surrendered in 1848. The war left Mexico with only 55% of its original territory, and America's new territory added a high number of Latinos to the population. Although the United States deprived Latinos of their land under the Reclamation Act in 1902, America encouraged and allowed Latinos, just 15 years later, to work in the United States while men were sent off to World War I. After World War I, during the Great Depression, anti-Latino discrimination hit an all-time high. During this time of crisis in America, the Latino population was blamed. The United States deported 2 million Latinos. 60% of the Latinos were American citizens. During World War II, the labor and service of Latinos once again was called upon by the United States. Latinos were the largest minority group enlisted in the military, and they provided work during the labor shortage. By the late 20th century, anti-Latino discrimination skyrocketed due to border concerns. President Ronald Reagan in 1986 passed the Immigration Reform and Control Act. The act strengthened the requirements of employers monitoring the immigration status of their workers. The anti-immigration opinion continued into 2004 with volunteers known as the Minutemen. This was an Arizona organized group to monitor illegal immigrants at the Mexico-United States border. Brothers Amadeo Barella and Cy Barella are full Spaniards and native elders of Fort Collins, Colorado. They attended school in the 1950s and early 1960s. Their memories are just a few examples of what the Latino community had to face during this time era.
It was everybody, just like restaurants or stores had no dogs or Mexicans allowed.
The Barellas were as good as dogs in the eyes of some, filthy and unwanted.
What would happen is we'd be the last one served. You know, we could go into a store, be ahead of someone else, and they would bypass us, wait on someone else first.
A biased society had the capability to strip the rights of any Latino with different business interactions. Despite their Spanish heritage, Amadeo and Cy learned to keep their lips sealed when called Mexican.
And, we didn't argue because everybody thought, we're Mexico, why argue? So we just went along with that.
Colorado's order to remove Mexicans in 1936 removed anybody who looked like a Mexican, even if they weren't. Both Amadeo and Cy Barella spoke a substantial amount about the education system.
And I think they had that little thought in their head that Hispanics or Mexicans were inferior and probably would always do menial work or not go to college or do things like that.
They had you already placed in where you ought to go, which was no school.
Cy and Amadeo graduated high school in 1964 and 1965, respectively. A few years later, protests began to arise in the nation because of the prejudice against Latinos in the school system.
But for the most part, I think most of us were kind of sat in the back of the room or to the side and probably ignored,
The Latino minority always got the seat in the back. After graduating high school in 1964, Amadeo quickly learned it would be one of the most challenging years of his life.
It was out of school, finding jobs, it was, or if you went to ask for a job, they kind of looked at you funny.
I think it was more lack of just not caring, not looking at us as like an equal or a human being that wants to do well and be a good citizen and things like that.
With many years of anti-Latino discrimination under their belts, the brothers had to learn how to deal with the racism.
What was nice? We had such a home family that if some jerk discriminated against us, we could go home, we were loved, we were in a nice environment.
But things are starting to change.
I think it's a lot better. When I went to school, I could see that they're real bad. But then when I go to the class reunions, everybody's friendly, everybody talks.
Wife of Amadeo Barella, Mary Jean has circumstances and experiences with discrimination unlike the brothers because she is Caucasian. In a nation where anti-Latino discrimination has truly existed, anybody, no matter the race, could have been impacted.
And I had a trailer house in a trailer park, and the owner of the trailer park called me in and said that I was going to have to move. And I said, and I looked at her and I said, why? And she says, you have too many loud and too many friends. And I said, okay. So then I told your grandpa about the situation, and he didn't say anything to me at the time, but he said, well, I will help you move the trailer house. We'll go to another park. I'll help you move your trailer house. And so it was after, I think it was after we were married, and he was telling me that the reason that I was dismissed from the trailer court was because he was coming over to see me.
Deeper into the relationship, Mary Jean visited a fair in Greeley, Colorado with Amadeo.
I can remember that we went to the fair or something in Greeley, and we were going together then, and we were walking down the midway, and things. Now this is going to show you the prejudice on the other side. But we were, and finally your grandpa says to me, let's go. I said, let's go. He says, yeah, let's go. And so he didn't say anything to me until we got in the car. And of course, there's a lot of Hispanic or Mexican people that live in Greeley. And he said, they told me that he was getting looks, from the Hispanic people. They did not like him with a Caucasian.
The minority was annoyed and outraged that Amadeo was with a Caucasian. A racial barrier had been established and any interaction was not accepted. In every part of the nation, society has struggled to blend the lines of race. The Bareilles' memories create a personal connection to this battle of injustice. The stories of Colorado are tragic yet valuable. The senior citizens of Colorado and the memories of anti-Latino discrimination illustrates its prolonged presence in the United States of America. It is 2018, yet the racism still continues. Will society ever reach a point of unity, or will Latinos continue to face a society that considers one race beneath another?